all of the different reasons why someone ends up being on the street. It's complex. It's you can't put it into one box. But they didn't start out that way. But to unravel that and to take the steps back and to understand that as many steps as it took to get into that are going to take to get out. And maybe that is the only choice that they have that day.
Here we are, everybody, with another episode of the Builder365 podcast, joined by my very, very good friend, Amy O'Connor. Amy, is it okay to say very, very good friend? I mean, we have good friends. We have very good friends. And I just called you I should have checked with you first before I called you that.
I was actually a little disappointed there weren't 3 varies, but all right, I'll settle for 2. But we should actually be introducing you, right? After you, is this, yeah.
Yeah, this is no, you're right. This is the first podcast episode since, I don't know when this is going to air, but this is the first podcast episode since returning from a 90-day sabbatical. Just go ahead and tell the world how much you missed me, Amy.
Oh, it was painful. I mean, we lived along, but when you came back, the sun started shining brighter and the butterflies flew faster and, all those things.
But here's what's weird. Here's what I noticed. I took 90 days and I shut it down. I mean, I had Ashley on our team checking my emails, but I just did nothing work-wise for 90 days. And to my incredible surprise, the world kept spinning. Even when the real estate world just kept spinning. I thought for sure it would just fly off its axis and be lost into the atmosphere forever. But the world kept spinning. Go figure.
Definitely gives us an ego check.
It does indeed, yeah. But I missed you. I missed being out there with all of my friends and all the friends who are watching right now as well. It's good to be back, and especially it's good to be back here during, you know what it is. It's National Learn a Foreign Language Month. How excited are you, Amy?
Oh, I gotta tell you, I think this is where other countries really beat us. I mean, you gotta look at Europe where a 4-year-old speaks 12 languages and I feel a little inadequate, quite frankly. I'm always very impressed and probably a little envious of people who speak multiple languages. And since I don't think Southern counts as its own language, although in some places it probably does, I'm just one. But you were learning French, weren't you, for your sabbatical? How'd that go?
I did hire a tutor, learned enough French to be able to order at a restaurant, essentially, and just to be polite, just to say hello. It's difficult to learn a language if you're not immersed in the language. But to me, when I'm traveling, I don't think it's too much to ask to know how to say hello and please and thank you in whatever country you're in. And when you do that, it's appreciated, it's respected. I know we were in France the whole time. We ended the trip in Paris. A lot of people say that Parisians are rude. And I would argue that Parisians are not very kind when you are rude. And when you walk into a place and you don't say bonjour and you don't say merci, that's deemed rude in Paris, and you're probably not going to get treated as well. But just just to be able to say, je ne parle pas français, I don't speak French. Just to say that much. It didn't take me that long to learn it, but it sort of raises it. But I don't know. Have you wanted though to learn another language?
No. Is that bad?
No.
That probably feels really bad.
No.
And by the way, if I tried that phrase in Southern, it'd be je ne parle pas français. So it'd be something like that. That's how I heard it, was je ne parle pas, which is probably not what it is. But I agree with you with being in Paris, and I knew nothing. I was much younger. And we did go to a very high-end restaurant one night, and I walk in, you know me, I speak to everybody, and I'm like, bonjour. And he looks at me, and he's like, bonsoir. And I was like, sorry. You're right. So I'm
that one up.
I'm making faux pas, but at least I tried. Maybe at least I tried.
Yeah,
I got some points.
And you get credit for trying. You do. They just to be polite. But it's interesting. I just got this book here. I've only scanned it, but so far I like what I'm seeing. I'll put up on the screen here. It's the Science of Rapid Skill Acquisition, and it's a self-published book. And it was like, look, it's just a little cheesy, but flipping through it, there's some actually really good stuff over here. And I'm incredibly impressed by polyglots, people who speak no, multiple languages, and they just sort of pick it up. And you're right, a lot of children in other countries, they're from a very, very young age. So yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah,
well, what are you going to
we're
do?
behind. We're
But
behind.
here's the good news: the overwhelming majority of the world was kind enough to learn how to speak English.
That was
Wasn't that
really
nice
nice
of
of
them?
them. It
Yeah,
really was.
absolutely.
It was.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, before we get deep into it, we haven't gotten an animal update from you recently. What's up on the farm these days?
Oh, I just can't even. My husband's going to kill me. So I'm at 5.5 cats. And I say half because there's one that's been coming around and I'm trying to tempt it into my lair. So he's a half for right now. But my
Okay.
last rescue, I really wasn't listening when they told me she had neurological issues. And then I told Rich, I was like, I didn't know that. And Claire, super helpful, goes, yes, you did, Mom. They told you. So my neurological disturbed cat has started peeing. Oh, she uses the litter box like 90% of the time, but 10% out is still a whole lot. And she
Yeah.
and she seems to prefer Rich's things, his tools, his drop cloth, his clothes that he leaves on the floor. All right, everyone, if your spouse leaves clothes on the floor, here's how you fix that. You
Yeah.
get a neurally deficient cat that will pee on the clothes, and then that
See,
stops happening. But no, it's gotten so bad. I mean, I spent hundreds of dollars on everything on Amazon. I've read all the articles, and you're gonna die. We are taking her to a behavioralist veterinarian. Yes, that's a thing. It's a thing, and I'm paying for it. And you have to wait like 4 weeks. It's that popular.
it's just insane. I mean, that's just, and I'm sure that's really cheap, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah. And I don't
goodness.
have any
Yeah,
pet insurance. At Short
yeah,
Consulting, if we can get pet insurance, like that would be a lot better for me.
yeah. We'll put that on the list of things that we'll never do. Sure,
Right
you got
after
it.
the
You
jet?
got it.
Okay, good.
Right after the jet, exactly. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the update, and my best to Rich. The man is a saint, putting up with all of this. Hey, just a very special thanks to our partner for the podcast, Builder365, as always, powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about the work they do to support all home builders at opendoor.com/Builder365. So there you go. Hey, Amy, I read something really, really interesting here in a Bloomberg article about the aging home buying population. This was just absolutely fascinating to me. The average age now, the median age of buyers right now, the median age, 56 years old. That's crazy.
It
And
is
the
crazy.
median age of a first time buyer is 37 years old. So man, this population is getting older and older all the time. And sort of begs the question, what are we going to do for our young people? It's a
Yeah.
difficult issue. What's your thought on that? Because I was blown away when I saw these numbers.
I read the same article as well. And I was like, 56? Are we sure? Let's check that source. And then the source looked pretty
Yeah.
legit. I think it was NAR.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that must be right. And yeah, I'm looking at the same thing. I mean, 38. I was trying to, how old were you when you bought your first home? Can you remember?
Yeah, let's see. I was 27. I was
I
27.
was 25. I was
Yeah,
25. And that wasn't unusual at the time. I mean, I
yeah.
had several friends who were buying homes. So I look
It's what
at
you just what you did. Yeah,
just what
yeah,
you did. And now I like
yeah,
to think that was 5 years ago. I mean, I get that it was
yeah.
20 years ago, but
Right.
my goodness, what a change in 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it is. It is gone to the point now where I think a lot of younger people are like, well, that ship already sailed and I'm just not even going to worry about it anymore. But I think if listen, if homes were more affordable to younger people, more younger people would be buying. I mean, it's just an economics thing. There's no question about it in my mind. And when I look still at the number of lower priced homes that are being built, that are being purchased by institutional investors, there is so much institutional money those are the homes that they want because they rent out, right? Because they get a return on that. And look, I tend to be more libertarian thinking in regards to my small government views, but I'm wondering if it's not time to put in some kind of restrictions on institutional investing because it's making it very, very difficult for young people. Uh, I also think it means that we might have to think more about flexibility of plans, of being able to have homes that are smaller but more flexible. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a choice here. I mean, if we're going to do anything with affordability, it's going to have cost reduction. We're going to have to think about land positioning. And if you're going to go smaller, you have to flex a lot more.
Yeah. It's one thing to say, well, this room could be a bedroom or a den. I think we're going to have to get far more creative than that. I think we're going to have to look at things like movable walls, sliding walls, and hidden furniture, and rooms that double as one thing during the day and another thing at night. And we're going to have to find ways to get really super creative. And if we're being honest, we really haven't. We've gotten a little bit more creative on how to squeeze more square footage onto the footprint of a home site, but I think it's going to have to go deeper than that in order to. And maybe there are lessons from Asia to be able to pick up on this.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's not like we have to invent it. It's already been done. I mean, there's plenty of high density areas that have had to figure this out. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. You start talking about things like sliding walls, though, and I start to go, well, that's cost. So I don't know.
I get it. I get it. Yeah, there's no question. And so maybe there's an answer there, just in regards to the technology of the way that the walls are being built and your robotics and everything else. So there's got to be this convergence here, because I think people sort of toss the word crisis out there pretty liberally, but I do think that we're coming up on that moment where, when we're thinking about where we're going to house our young people, the word crisis might very well come into play here. So yeah. Well, speaking of housing people who need housing, just really thrilled here to have sat down with my very, very special guest, and Scott Larson from HomeAid, and talk about the wonderful things they're doing to make sure that everybody who needs a place to sleep gets one. And this industry, I think when you listen to the interview, you're going to walk away with a really warm feeling about our industry, about the altruistic nature of our industry, the philanthropic nature of our industry, and the fact that we really are serious about taking care of people who really need housing the most. Here's my interview with Scott Larson. Scott Larson, so glad to have you with us. We've known each other for some time, but I wanted the great privilege of sharing you with our audience. So let's just start here. Tell us about HomeAid. Tell us what the organization does and your role inside the organization.
No, Jeff, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm the CEO for HomeAid, and I've been in this national role for about 5 years. But prior to being in this national role, overseeing the overall work of HomeAid, I ran the Orange County affiliate of HomeAid for over 20 years. And that's where it all began. 35 years ago, the building industry saw an opportunity and a need to step into, the complex issue of homelessness. And the concept was, as people in the building industry, what do we do best? We build, and we build homes. And what a better connection to take the resources of the intellectual capital, the physical resources, and to pour those into such a critical issue such as homelessness. Who better than people that build housing for a living to step into such an important cause of looking to end homelessness in their community?
Yeah, it's so true. The symmetry there cannot be denied. The opportunity that we build homes to help people have a place to live. Well, how about the people who need a place to live the most? Tell us some of your favorite homemade moments and/or projects over the years, Scott.
There's a variety of different things that are both personal as well as, the physical structures. Because I truly believe that what we do as home build is people in the home building industry. It's a noble thing, as you were talking about. We're building homes, and that is underscored with the nobility of building for those that are either at risk or marginalized with their housing. And I look at time and time again projects that have been completed. I'm thinking specifically of a project that I was involved with in Santa Ana, California, called Emmanuel House. A very challenged street. It's a street that you wouldn't walk down at night. And what was built was a project for people at the time that were going to be dying from HIV and AIDS. Very controversial. The project was designed to be a hospice and had to overcome a lot of barriers in the community, oppositions, people were afraid. But what was built was just an amazing physical product designed by an amazing architect, built by an amazing builder. It changed that street. It changed the physical environment, but it also changed the hearts and minds of the people in that community. And nowadays, people aren't overtly dying from, it's not an over death sentence, but it's an opportunity to live. And this project gives those residents that are there an opportunity to get their next step in their life. And that's what projects are all about, is transforming a physical community, transforming people's lives, and giving hope and optimism. On a very personal level, at one point I walked up to a project and there was a gentleman finishing the sidewalk in front of it. Get out of my car and walk up, and I said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And he looked at me like, "You're an idiot. Of course I know what I'm doing. I'm finishing the sidewalk." And I said, No. Do you know what you're doing? And do you know what this project is about? And it was a home for people fleeing domestic violence. And I went on to describe kind of the purpose and the nature of that project. And he paused and he looked at me and he said, "Scott, I now can go home and tell my wife that I did something of value today." Not that what he didn't do that, but we underscored his trade, his ability, his finishing a sidewalk with a deeper meaning and purpose than maybe he had thought about before. And that's the heart of who we are. That's the heart of who HomeAid is.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But you mentioned that this is not always an easy task. And, I'm on the board of directors for an organization called The Gathering Inn. It's our local public-private partnership up here in Placer County. And, we wanted to build this whole very secure campus that was going to allow people at all stages to sort of elevate from just needing a bed first to career counseling and maybe mental health care, up into tiny homes, and then eventually out into places on their own. We have this beautiful parcel of land across the street from a prison. And it didn't matter. Neighbors that were, a couple miles away on the other side of the freeway went absolutely nuts. And so when we see this is a real issue. Everyone wants a solution as long as they perceive that it has zero impact on their lives. What do you do with that? Because you have these sometimes called the bananas, build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone else. How do you fight that? What do you do to try and help people with a cause that is sometimes everybody understands, but nobody really wants to be an active participant in?
And that's where a lot of the skills and expertise from the industry come in play, because they battle these types of things on a lot of their regular developments. And so as we pull our consultants into these projects, first off, we have to acknowledge that the fear is real. It may not be reality, but we have to acknowledge that the concerns that these residents and the neighbors of a potential project, we can't dismiss them. And there's a lot of conversations and trying to bring home the fact that a lot of these individuals are one or two people away, a lot of community meetings, aspects of meeting with elected officials who ultimately make some of these decisions. But one of the things that we bring people back to, if it's in a community where we've built before, is look at what we've done. Look at the existing developments, and I think that you'll see that the fears are gone away. So the project that I referenced earlier related to Emmanuel House, it led to an opportunity to build 2 more projects directly across the street. And then right now here in December, a 17-unit apartment building will be dedicated a block away under all the same guise and purpose. Because they're seeing the effectiveness, they're seeing the changes in their community. But it just takes it takes persistence. It takes listening ear. care and concern. And there have been times that projects haven't been approved, but I think the spirit and intent is to just keep working and listening and showing that what we do is a benefit and an asset in their local community.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we look at the homeless today, or you were talking about this project that was for people who had HIVs, people who had HIV and had a death sentence at the time were stigmatized by that, and people didn't want to be around it because they didn't understand it. And I think it's the same thing with homelessness, right? We tend to look at it and say with homelessness and say the homelessness is the problem. No, the homelessness is the symptom of any number of different problems, and to be able to put everybody in the same bucket and say, I think I understand who these people are. And then you end up with what I think are silly comments like people want to be homeless, they want to live on the street. And the percentage of people that want to live on the street, it very, very nobody
Very,
sets out for that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, very, very few. And even those that at the time, in interacting, may have chosen that. What led to
Mhm.
that choice?
Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah, it's a series of events, and it's a
Yeah.
series of broken promises and relationships. There's a tremendous book that we've distributed amongst our team nationally called "When You Walk By,"
Hmm.
and it's written by a gentleman who runs an organization in the San Francisco Bay Area, and all of the different reasons why someone ends up being on the street. It's complex. It's you can't fit it into one box, but they didn't start out that way.
Hmm.
But to unravel that and to take the steps back and to understand that as many steps as it took to get into that are going to take to get out, and maybe that is the only choice that they have that day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do we have the compassion without it being, you know, parental with these individuals and families that are on the street, coming in from a I know better mentality?
Right.
We have an
Right.
opportunity to really walk alongside them and not walk by, and
Yeah.
really understand the circumstances that led them, and listen and try to see what solutions there are to have it be different.
Deep down, these are real human beings. They have real lives, and it would behoove us to want to know more about the people in our communities. Can you and I have been in this industry for a long time, and I've never asked you the question, but I have to believe that you feel as I do, heartwarmed by the philanthropic nature of the home building
Yeah.
industry. I assume you feel the same way about that.
I there's not a more compassionate uh, entrepreneurial group that I can point to, any business sector in this country that is embodies what the home building industry does. Whether or not it's HomeAid or many other philanthropic efforts, this is a group like no other, and talented, passionate, highly skilled, and they put as much effort into changing communities in their philanthropy as I've ever seen. And I did have the opportunity to work for a couple of nonprofits prior to HomeAid, and I I love this industry. I wanted to be a custom home builder when I was in high school, and to a degree, it's a little bit of what we do now. But it's a tremendous group of people, people that I mentioned that I get to work with the best in the building industry, and I get to work with the best in the nonprofit sector for the people we build for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Scott, can I ask you, and I'm going to ask you anyway, and if you don't want to answer, well, we'll just edit this question out. Can I
Yeah.
ask you about your recent personal journey? Because it's quite a story.
Thanks for asking, and I do want people to ask. The last 6 months has been a journey where I was diagnosed and successfully have navigated a cancer diagnosis. Back earlier in the year, I began to not feel very well, and it led to um, a cancer diagnosis of lymphoma. But for a period of time, which is a very curable form of cancer, you still have to go through chemo and you have to have the care and attention. But there was a brief period of time where it was which it was very acute, where they thought it was only months that I potentially had to live. And not to focus on that part of it, but to focus on things like this could happen to anybody at any time. And someone recently asked me, so, well, Scott, how has this changed your outlook on life? And well, first off, I'm extremely grateful to the City of Hope here in Southern California, which is another organization that has been strongly supported by the building industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The Construction Industry Alliance, which I
Mhm.
have become familiar with and intimate with. But this diagnosis didn't necessarily change my perspective, but it deepened my perspective on life. And I'm very driven by purpose, very driven by my faith. But it underscored the need to continue to value every moment, every relationship, as if it's either the first or the last.
Mhm.
And because things happen in people's lives, and I'm extremely grateful that I was given the care and prayers and concern of many, many people over the last couple of months. And I don't take that lightly.
Right.
I know everyone's cancer journey is not the same. And I want to be there to be listening to the ear and to share my story. But yeah, I physically, I feel really well for those that have been aware of the last 6 months. And I'm excited for more conversations with people about it.
It's fantastic. It's one of those things where, when you look at cancer, it's a knock on the door. Right?
Yeah.
It's not, a lot of our health issues are to some extent might be preventable, but cancer is one of those things. You just never know, right? And so it's always interesting for me to hear how do you respond to that, and then what do you learn from that, right? We had Amy O'Connor, our team, who went through just a massive cancer battle. It had her down for about 18 months, and it took just a miraculous surgery. And last time I had seen her, it was last May. I flew to DC to see her. I basically said goodbye. We thought that
Yep.
was it. But to see her come through that, and then to recognize that there is a joy for life that she wasn't going to have elsewise. So it's an amazing story, and I'm very happy to be talking to you after I first got the message from you, Scott, that things weren't looking so good. So it's a beautiful story for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things that people are afraid of the C word, and
Mhm.
I acknowledge that. And this is actually, a few people know this is my third touch with cancer of a couple of different kinds, and certainly not expected. But you dive in, you get the support that you need, and you have people that care for you. And I, again, grateful for people that that have gone down this journey, researched it, and just like with issues related to homelessness, well, you can't solve homelessness, and people will say, well, you can't solve cancer, but there's people that are, or you can't cure, but there are people that have tackled that have looked at it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I feel very much a beneficiary of years of trial and error and research to be able to be here with you today and with others as we move forward.
But there's also there's a gift side to this, in the sense that, like, I just finished a 90-day sabbatical, and one of the things that I did during the sabbatical is I did a deep dive in Solomon's book of Ecclesiastes, and
Uh-huh.
really looking at how do you live well, knowing that that life is a breath and you're going to die. But I would guess that from your perspective, knowing that you've had this brush with death really does cause you to evaluate the way that you live. I mean, I'm not trying to get overly philosophical
Yep.
about this, but people can only, I think you have to go through that in order to really understand how your impending death changes the way that you're going to live over here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I firmly believe that in our spirit, in our nature, we were not meant to die,
Yeah.
but we do.
Mhm.
And so, how do you live in that daily balance? Because you and I are living and breathing today, but there will be a time that doesn't,
Right.
that things change. And
Yeah.
in our daily interactions, are we kind to
Mhm.
people? Are we considerate? Are we looking to understand as we go along our own journey? But everyone is on a journey, and so are we? Do we have the eyes and the wisdom to be able to look beyond
Right.
ourselves and to be that person for somebody else along the way? That's
And then
what life is all about.
Are we really grateful for this breath and the next breath and the breath after that? So
Exactly.
it's fantastic. How can people get involved with the movement, with the homemade movement there, Scott?
Yeah, so we're in communities across the country. We have 19 affiliates. Our website, HomeAid, HomeAid.org, gives access to all of our affiliates. But even if we're not in a local community, we want to connect. We want to connect with you. We're expanding. We've got 6 new markets that we're looking to be in across the country. And the key thing is everyone has an opportunity to be involved. This month, it's Homelessness Awareness Month, but every day we have an opportunity to understand the issue, to educate ourselves on it, to take the opportunity to learn a little bit more about that person that you've, not necessarily intimately, that the person that you drove by or the person that's on the street. All right, but once you become aware and you begin to, your eyes will begin to open and think, okay, what options does that person have? And we, as good developers looking for housing, our people, it's like, okay, what does the community have, and how do we develop the types of homes and facilities and options for someone that doesn't have housing? It's the same mindset. We just apply it to a social cause of the issue related to homelessness.
Yeah. You can see it for yourself at homeaid.org. You're going to see everything that this just absolutely amazing cooperative has done around the country, continues to do, tens of thousands of people served, and the people that really, really need help the most. Scott, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by and giving us a few minutes of your time.
You're welcome. I look forward to seeing you soon.
So there you go. It's an important conversation. I know, Amy, you and I have talked about this in the past. How do we make sure the right people, all the people, get housing? What do we do?
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I just feel good about the efforts that our industry takes in
Yep.
in moving beyond just how do we make money on a home,
Right.
and going into how do we make sure that the right people get homes.
Yeah. Yeah. Home ownership can't be a luxury that only a few can attain. Right. I mean, it has to
Yep.
be so much more available than that.
Yep. Right. We're working on it, but we got a lot of work to do. All right, Amy, always good spending time with you. Thanks, everybody. Good to be back in the saddle. And until next time, go out and change someone's world.